My name is Amy Bhrún. I am an actress, writer, voiceover artist. Yeah, I've been back in Ireland for the last, I'd say it's probably coming up to like 10 years at this stage, but I originally trained in London and was over there for like 8.5 or 9 years. So I sort of started my career over there, and then work brought me back here. And yeah, that's kind of where I ended up. I wrote, in the space of a couple of years, I wrote 6 different one-woman shows, and I sort of toured them both in like around in different countries and in Ireland, and kind of found spaces that would take them in the time of a recession. And yeah, so my journey's been, particularly my journey in film and TV has been very straightforward, but in theatre it's been very different. And yeah, I've kind of bounced around a bit and kind of found my own little path in it and kind of done my own thing a little bit.
Was it always something like when you were younger? Is this what you wanted to do? Was it when you were, growing up? Yeah.
God, like, but not, the writing came out of necessity, like about 10 years ago. But in terms of like acting, I used to act out scenes on my own, and my mum would just find me acting out a scene and so somewhere in the house. Like I just get lost in it. And we've got like 5 girls in our family, and I feel like it was just kind of a little moment of silence and quiet for me to just go off and do that. And I just feel completely connected and myself, and when I'm acting. So it's just always been there. I've never, even when I was in primary school and people were like, what do you want to do? I'd be like, actress. And it wasn't to be famous, because I don't feel like that was as much of a thing back then. Yeah. But it was definitely acting. It was just like, I loved trying on different people. I loved being able to just like let those sides of myself out, because I think I was quite shy, and I still would have a shy nature to me. Mm-hmm. Which people probably don't believe, but I would have quite a little shy nature to me. So it was a way of just kind of expressing myself and yeah, feeling fully like who I was.
And did that kind of, as a child, but then was there a time when you kind of questioned that? Was there a time you went, oh, is that really what I want to do? Or was it completely, No,
I was quite like, it was always there, even when confidence, because I was very kind of, not confident, but like I do school plays and I wouldn't think twice about them. But you get to an age where girls start, like girls in the class be like, oh, she always gets the main part, or and this is in primary school, it's but it's and that would my confidence would wane a little bit. But no, I always knew exactly kind of what I wanted to do. And even after I left secondary school, I got into Trinity to do English literature. Yeah. Because I didn't know about drama school, and there was only I think at the time they drama and theatre studies, and I didn't get into that. So I ended up getting into English, and I just left after a couple of weeks, and then I just took that year to basically just apply to drama schools and audition, because I that was the thing that like cemented it for me. I was like, I can't sit here in a lecture hall listening to people like analyze a play. I need to be in the room. I need to be in my body doing the play and doing the characters, so. Yeah.
And was it in your family, Amy? Was it kind of, is there?
Yeah, well, like my eldest sister Fiona's an actress and a singer and a voiceover artist. So she's 11 years older than me. Okay. So she went to Trinity when she was like 17, and was in the first year, I think, that did drama and theatre studies. So she spent all her time in players, and I used to go and see her shows and be like, thought she was the most amazing thing in the world. And my mum always kind of wanted to be an actress, but she ended up being a drama teacher, because kind of back then she didn't know how to do it. It wasn't available to her. And then as years have gone on, she's gone into directing and back into acting as well. So yeah, it's definitely there. It's definitely there. My dad was a bookie and had 2 bookies businesses, so he was absolutely nothing to do with it, but he appreciates the arts, and but it was like, it wasn't a far off concept.
Yeah, so it wasn't something that you had to convince people what it was about or anything like that. They kind of knew.
No, and the only time it ever came up was when I was leaving Trinity, and my dad was like, would you not do law or something? And I was like, what? Like, that was like the most bizarre. I think he just felt like, oh, I better say this thing that you should say to someone, like.
And then was it soon after that you went to London, or what was?
Yeah, so literally, like, I left Trinity in, say, the December, like after the first term, and then the following October I was like first day of drama school. So it felt like a lifetime because there was a lot of auditioning and a lot of rejection. But it all came together perfectly. It was kind of like I was definitely in the right drama school for me, and it was a drama school. It wasn't particularly well known. It's like at the time, but they had all the different tutors from Lambda and RADA, except that it was a registered charity. So whatever way they had gone about it, you would be able to get all these amazing tutors, and it was a proper drama school for the 2 years full time. But it was just the fees weren't as high, which was really good going over there from Ireland, obviously. And I just loved it because they weren't about breaking you down to build you back up. They were about finding what was you and unique about you and kind of building on that. And then they also very much encouraged you to create your own work. So they were always like, as soon as you leave here, if you're not getting work, like put on a show in the Camden Fringe Festival, put on a show, so I think that was just really good for me because that kind of always kept me optimistic, and I never got depressed or like.
No, it's funny. I mean, the first time I met you, you came across as very like, if you're not going to do it for me, I'm going to do it for myself, and not in that, no.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Not at all in a bad way, but in that kind of way of you're a doer and you're a maker, and I think that's I'm always fascinated in that with people, and obviously in the industry that we're all in, you kind of have to do that, but some people are better at it than others. And in relation to that, I mean, that was a big step then going to London. Was that a scary thing? Was it kind of?
Yeah, it was. It was. I was actually terrified. I remember, and I remember my mum even said to me, like, just do. I was coming back 3 weeks later. My sister, who was in an Irish dancing show, was performing, and she 3 weeks later. So mum was like, if you don't like it in 3 weeks, come home and that's it. That's your get out, So I was terrified going over, but once I was there, I just loved it so much. But yeah, it was terrifying. But I think as well, I had no other option. I think that was a huge thing. There was no other option. Like no other drama school would have me. Dublin wouldn't have me. So I was just like, okay, I'll throw myself into it. And I just loved it. So once I got there, it was brilliant, but it was a terrifying concept because I didn't know anyone in my course. There was no other Irish people in my course. I stayed with my cousin who's English and her friends for the first 2 weeks, and then basically had to find people in drama school to move in with. So you're just like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And back then, like as if it was so long ago, but it was different as in you didn't have FaceTime and you weren't always calling. You were like I text my mom and then once a week would like do the phone call from the house phone because it was cheaper or whatever. But yeah, so it was different time. Like
but thinking you're not talking about 40 years ago.
No, God, yeah, I'm like not letter writing or like So it was different, but it wasn't. We weren't too far away, but it was like it felt more different. So I was even saying that to somebody recently about when I first moved over. What was it? So I moved over in 2003, and even just like the scope of people over there, the like multicultural, like it was so multicultural in comparison to Ireland. I felt like at that time, and I remember like getting on the bus to college one day and just being like, oh my God, like my eyes were popping out of my head because I was like, we don't see this like at home. Now we do, but I was like, we don't, like, it felt like it definitely felt like a different place for sure.
Yeah. I'm just interested in your process. I mean, obviously you have written a lot and you also work a lot across kind of stage and screen. Most recently, the most recent thing I saw you in was amazing in the last series of In the Line of Duty. And that was incredible. I mean, I think one of my favorite series, but just, I didn't, if I hadn't known that you were going to be in it, you were unrecognizable in it. And I think...
Yeah, keep saying that to me.
I'm just interested in your process towards, like, is there an Amy de Bhrún way of working that you kind of go through the whole time, or is it different? I mean, obviously it's going to be somewhat different in different contexts, but is there a way that you have of kind of preparing yourself?
Yeah, like I think it's different, and there's different ins to the character all the time. So like it was great, say with Line of Duty, because she's Liverpudlian, so instantly the in for me is the accent, because I have to. That's the most basic thing about her, is her accent. So sometimes that can just give me a sense of her, because my voice might change, and that'll be an in. But I definitely, with everything I do, I would lean. I don't use it like solely, because I just feel like a method is so like restricted in a way, but I would lean towards the kind of Chekhov way of thinking. It's like using my imagination. Like I don't delve into my own personal stuff. I use like imaginary, like, you know, I have an image of her in my mind. I have a sense of how she walks and physicality and stuff like that. But I definitely, it's never felt right for me ever in any character to start comparing someone's story to my story, and then take this limited story that I have and trying to like bash it into this character. And it always felt, anytime I ever tried to work that way, you know, when you're kind of learning and stuff, it just felt so limiting and so uncreative. Whereas I feel like I always try and make finding a character very creative, you know, and I'll try to, you know, different things. So I'll have an idea of, you know, physically where she's coming from, her voice, like where her voice is placed in her body, the idea of how she looks, you know, even if there's music, but anything where you feel like an artist and you're actually creating something. And I think that's what so many people crave, like, you know, so many actors crave. And I think that's sometimes why actors can find it really difficult in certain rehearsal rooms or with certain characters, because they're expected to work rigidly in a certain way, you know, whereas I like to use my tools, and my tools are my body and my voice and my mind, you know. So yeah, I kind of come at it from that angle for sure.
And is it different then, say, from playing characters that you've written yourself? Like is there a separation, or when does a separation occur between the writer and the performer, you know? And
yeah, for sure. Like I always say on day one in rehearsal, that's when I separate and I just become Amy the actor. And unless something very, very niggling hits me where I'm like, that line isn't right, but generally I'll make sure, I'll be like quite strict with myself, that I'll make sure that by the time I'm in the rehearsal room, I have like I'm Amy the actor then, like, you know, so I'll be meticulous about the writing until I get to the rehearsal room, and then I just go, do you know what? And then often what will happen is, you know, the director might have said to me a few times, oh, I don't know about that line, and I'm like, no, it's in the playing of it, and I'll get the playing of it. I just need to get the playing of it, and it always works out. It has so far, hoping. But yeah, so I definitely try and separate at that point, because I think otherwise, you know, it would be, you'd just be doing your own head in.
Well,
and you have to,
the focus in the room will get a bit strange. People not know where to look, you know.
Yeah, and like, and then I think it's easier because, like, the first time I worked with another actor on my own script, apart, not film now, but on stage, so kind of in the room a lot more with each other, was with Roxana, and I just want to also give her the freedom. Sorry, with ICU, my last play, I want to give her the freedom to be able to play around with the words and do that without thinking that I'm looking at her going, no, sorry, that word isn't, you know. I want to let that kind of unfold itself. So yeah, I have to kind of.
It's hard though. Is that kind of hard to do?
Not really. And I think because, for me, not really. And I think because primarily I've always seen myself as an actor, and second to that, a writer.
Okay.
You know, so I don't have the same probably ego as I would have if I feel like I you know, if writing was all I did, and I was doing it all the time, I'd probably be really like strict about it. But I kind of feel like, because I always see myself as an actor first, I think I'm a little bit more loose with the words and stuff. But I will get them into a decent position before I get into the room. And if I'm in the room myself, you know, and it's only me and it's a one-woman show, there has been times when we've kind of cut stuff and gone, no, that's not working, but it's generally like I've kind of left the writer part behind, you know. I'm not kind of, yeah.
And talk about maybe where did the writing started from, Amy? Like, what, you know, how did that fall to you?
Yeah, so like when I first left drama school, I was just kind of, me and a few friends set up a theatre company, and we were doing play after play, and they were all written plays and all that. And then it got to a point, kind of like a turning point, I guess, in my own life, where I was kind of not sure if I wanted to be in London or Dublin, not sure where, you know, where I wanted my career to go, how I was going to navigate it. And I just, on a whim, I had done an improvised show a couple of years before with my sister and my mom, which was bananas, but I basically lost all my fear then. I just went, right, that's so embarrassing, great, I've done it. And it also kind of opened up my imagination a little bit. So with my theatre company, we did a devised show in the Camden Fringe Festival, and we all wrote bits of it. So then I kind of became, again, a bit more confident in my writing, because I was like, oh, that's okay, I can do that much. And I remember I saw a really bad show, and I just went, do you know what? I could probably give it a go. Like, I could probably just write better myself. You know, those things where you're like, I could do that better myself. So I just started writing with no end in mind, or no kind of thing. I think I booked a theatre, and I booked the Old Red Lion, and I just went, I'll just do it. And I just was writing reams and reams, but I was really in a weird space where I was really trusting the final thing, because I felt probably like maybe I had nothing to prove, you know. No one's expecting me to be a great writer. So if it's just okay, great, you know. And I think it was a one night only kind of thing. And I was writing reams and reams, and then I'd get into the room and I'd read it all, and then I'd start cutting bits and chopping it together, and it was all coming out in bits and bobs. But because I wasn't a writer, I was kind of okay with it coming in all these kind of different directions and pulling it together and knitting it together. So I think that really helped. I kind of was a bit fearless with it, and a bit naive probably as well at the same time. And then for the next few years, that was kind of the show that kind of took me back to Ireland. And then there was a huge transitionary period where I wrote all these shows. And I think that the writing kind of saw me through all that time. It really, I had so much to say. I just felt like
how many plays did you write in that kind of era?
6.
Wow.
Yeah. So first of all, I did Life, and I did it in a good few theatres, and then this eatery in Terranure saw it, and they were like, it was the recession time, and they were like, we want to do dinner theatre. We want to do, I think Bewley's I think that might have been a time when Bewley's was closed, or maybe it was open, I can't remember, but they're like, we want to do this kind of thing, and theatre nights and dinner theatre. So then they were like, we'll commission your next show, and your next show, and your next show. So I ended up doing a few shows, maybe 4 for them. Then I did a 5th, then started taking it around theatres, and again, and then a 6th, which was Till Death We Part. So I started with Life, and I ended with Death, and I knew that would close the thing. And that was when actually that was Carl Shields, who I went to him, and I was like, because again, I was ringing up theatres going, I put it on in this festival in New York, this festival in LA, I put it on in Dublin, you know, no one would have me. No one would come and have a free dinner in the eatery and just see the thing, you know. So I met up with Carl, and he was like, I can't take one that you've done already. So he's like, you have to do a new one. He was going, would you write a new one? And I was like, I will. So I just wrote it, and then I put on Till Death in theatre upstairs, and then kept going from there, and then kind of finished that up as well. So yeah, it was a mad time, kind of a crazy time, but like, yeah, it was great to kind of, just great to do them. And
I mean, glad you mentioned his name, but like Carl and Laura, like such a kind of a huge influence on so many people in the
and so many people who said like after he passed away, they were like, he gave me a chance when no one else would. And I was like, that is exactly it, like that, because I always shone a little light on them, because I was like, they're like, it's just what they were doing. They found so many incredible artists as well, you know. And I think sometimes we need to be think a little bit outside the box, you know, and maybe seek out these people sometimes, you know.
Amy, has there been a play or a performance or a film or a piece of music that has kind of turned your head through your life, or, you know, had a major impact, or something that you kind of go back to, or is there a few of them, you know, something that you really had did inspire you? Or
like there's so many, but there's 2 plays actually that always stay with me.
Excuse me.
And one is Man of Valor with Paul Reed, And I remember I saw that. I used to always go to see the Corn Exchange, even when I was in drama school or younger, you know, because that's the great thing about having, say, Fiona or someone in the industry. They know what's happening, you know. And when I saw Man of Valor, I just thought Paul's performance was so incredible. I was transported. And I just loved how they used everything. I could see the world. They were creating a world right in front of my face. And actually, after I saw that play, I was like, I'm going to work with him. And I wrote a short film and then asked him to be in it, and he was, which is class. Yeah. And then and also like anything by Pat Kinnavan. Like, but the first time, no, do you know what it was? I think when I saw Underneath. I went to see it, and I went to see Silent and was like hugely moved, obviously, but I think for some reason, whatever space I was in when I saw Underneath, I just bawled. I think I just done Till Death We Part, and there were similar themes about death and all that. I just bawled straight afterwards. It was just like a reaction, like a physical reaction. And I was just like, he's doing what I want to do. That's the connection that with my one woman shows, I'm constantly trying to create, and I hope I'm creating, but it's just, he's in the moment, he's there, it's live, and you see the world and you see the characters, and he is gone, you know, and he's utterly transformed. And then you come out of the theatre after seeing something with Pat Kinnavan and you're transformed, you know, you feel like you've been, and there's this like idea, which is like super wanky, but this idea, I think it was Chekhov who was kind of going about a theatre of the future, where they're almost like spiritual places where we can go and we can heal. And that's why probably it's so interesting that at this moment, the theatres are open, and that's usually where we go for like our healing and our comfort and our connection, you know. So
how do you find, I mean, it's kind of a lot of conversations with people during this downtime, and just generally, I suppose, particularly within freelance artists, about kind of your tools for survival when you're waiting on the phone, or when you're kind of in those downtimes beyond writing 6 plays for yourself. But like, would you have a kind of way of dealing with that? Because that seems to be, you know, it's a huge problem for people within this.
Yeah, I think what I've tried to do in this one, well, I also now have 8.5-month-old child, so that's changed everything. But what I've still been doing with that as well. But I find like yoga really helpful. I think it's just such a good tool because you're constantly in your body, so you're still fine-tuning your body and finding out about yourself. And I think that's really good as an actor, and getting yourself out of your head and right down into your body. So I feel like that when I'm back on set again, hopefully in a month or 2, I'll be ready, you know, and meditation as well, because like, again, getting yourself out of your head for your mental health. And I think as well, at this time, I'm really trying to honor the fact that like the planet is telling us to slow the F down. So why don't we just like back off, like, and see what and also like see what it feels like not to perform, you know, like see who are we without it, and just explore that, because it'll make us a better actor in the end, you know. But I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is really sit in the discomfort of it.
Yeah.
So much more of my identity is tied up in me being an actor, me being productive, me getting loads of things done, you know. And I'm trying to just really sit in it and go, well, who am I now with just this? And we're all the same, you know. So I think kind of anything that helps your mental health, I think at this time, anything that brings you into your body. And then if you want to read, or you want to do a bit of writing, or you want to watch a movie, I'm trying to watch really good dramas and really good films, because that's the connection to like what I love. But like, I think there's that panic of everyone's feeling like, well, I better create something. Okay, well, I'll write a script. And I'm like, well, no, it won't, you know, maybe just sit in it and figure out, you know, and just see what comes out of it, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that's kind of coming back at me through this, is that separation of who you are from what you do, you know. Yeah. It can be quite scary as well, but I think it's kind of a very healthy place to be, you know, if you can sit in it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so needed for all of us, because like I think every artist is totally tied to their art, artistic identity, and it's really healthy it's just so healthy to step back from it, but it's uncomfortable. Like,
and sorry, just in relation to say Line of Duty, your kind of recent work, what was it like kind of suddenly being in a hit like TV series and kind of all that comes with that? Like, did that kind of, or being around?
Yeah. Say again?
Or being around that, what?
Yeah, it's kind of, it was kind of amazing, because I don't think I realized how big the show was until I was like filming it for the first time. And then I was like, oh God, this is like, and then I kept watching more and more series, and I was like, oh God, okay, this is like a big deal. Obviously I knew Stephen Graham was a big deal, and that was huge. But yeah, it's incredible. But it's so interesting, because those kind of gigs are such a good leveler, because you just go, like, I went straight out of that and started doing my play, and it all felt the same. Like, and I think if you can get yourself to a place where it all feels the same, it's great. But and what's great about it is Jed, who's the creator, really gives people a chance. So like, he liked what I was doing, he kept bringing me back, like, and that's what's really kind of nice about a gig like that. If someone at the top is really good and they like what you're doing, they have the ability to kind of bring you up and pull you along. It's fantastic. But yeah, it was great, but it feels I kind of didn't know what I was getting myself in for, but it was definitely bigger than I expected. But it's but again, like, it's just good people doing good work, and if you can, so it's
I'll let you go in a minute. A couple of questions left. In relation to, I suppose I'm always interested in how, say, people within the arts advocate or talk to people who aren't necessarily involved in the arts, about what they do, and about kind of, the importance of creativity. And I think it's very interesting now when, say, lots of drama, like kids' drama schools are closed down, youth clubs are closed down, youth theatres are closed down. It's like, the access to live interaction within the arts is kind of gone. Even to make music lessons are gone. And I'm really interested in, are we doing enough, not just within this time, but just generally, to kind of advocate for the arts to the public, not to the politicians, but like to the public.
Yeah, I think the thing about that is bringing it to the spaces where art, like bringing it to the people, as opposed to kind of expecting people to come to the big spaces, where they might feel uncomfortable. I think that's a good thing to do as well. But I think it's about bringing them, like, thinking outside the box, and bringing the art kind of to the people if we can, and not being egotistical about it, because I think sometimes we have this idea, because we're a small country, you have to work in this theatre and this theatre, and then you'll be the best in the world, or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, no, well, what about the art and the work? And how about getting really, really good work and getting it to the people, who may not maybe usually see it. Like, I remember James Grieve, who he was the artistic director of Payne's Plough for years, and he started off with this theatre company called Nabokov, which he kind of based on Payne's Plough. His kind of thing was always to get to be the artistic director of Payne's Plough, which he achieved. But he was saying with Nabokov, their big thing was like, how can we make the theatre experience so comfortable for people that people who would never go to the theatre go? And they were like, okay, we'll do it like above a pub or in a pub, and we'll do like a pie and a pint, and we'll do, so trying to have all these things. So I think to get it, I think to not be like, not be prejudiced about where we perform or how we perform, and to really try and this is a great kind of lesson in that, is like, we have to start bringing the art to the people, and not just rely on because that's what it's about. It's not about me getting that fancy job in that fancy theatre. It's about the work and the community, and surely maybe that's a bit of a, like, it's nice to get the nice jobs in the nice theatre, believe me, but yeah, I think it's about kind of bringing the art to the people, surely.
I think it's funny, a word that's kind of come out an awful lot of what you're saying, though, is that kind of work ethos. It's about the work. And I think that seems to be very important to you, that like it's about it being work and something to work at.
Yeah, I think so. And I think because that's the only thing that grounds me in it, because if I start thinking about like, ooh, I got this fancy interview, or ooh, I got this fancy audition, or you know, it goes somewhere else. It's like it's about the work, and like and that's why as well, I like my husband said to me recently, he was like, if this thing was in, you know, in a community hall, would you do it? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh, then you should do it. Like, as in, like, you know, it doesn't matter if it's in a big venue or if it's in wherever, if you would still do it regardless of where it was, it means the piece of work is something that you like and you're passionate about, and you should, you know, you should go for it anyway.
Brilliant.
So yeah,
yeah.
Work.
Brilliant. Finish, Amy, and thanks very, very much for taking part, and I hope to see you again soon in real life.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully this will end soon.
I know, yeah.